All right. This week, we move into one of the most intense stories. One of the most intense stories that we'll cover all semester. And one of my 2 or 3 favorite pieces of literature that we do all semester. Okay? So, get psyched up because you're going to be writing about something that I love. So, I hope you love it. Okay? Now, why am I sitting here in front of my fireplace with a fire going? Besides the fact that it may be March and we still have a lot of snow on the ground, that's not it. This is setting, okay? I am helping to set the story for you, and I'm helping to create a setting. We spent a good deal of time on setting back a few weeks ago, okay? Well, this is for some setting because the story that we're going to be reading involves a witch's Sabbath. And a witch's Sabbath is a devil worship ceremony. And in this devil worship ceremony, there is a big fire. Okay? That's the way a witch's Sabbath is. So therefore, you can see a little bit of the mood setting that I've done here for you to help you kind of understand what we're doing. And again, we're in front of a fire so that you can think fire and hellfire, okay? Because again, devil worship, worshiping Satan, worshiping the power of evil in this world. That's part of what this story is all about. Now, I want to give you a little bit of background on this story, okay? You already have a little background on Hawthorne because Hawthorne wrote The Birthmark, and that's a little bit of an intense story, okay? Well, this is a lot more intense story than The Birthmark, even though The Birthmark is pretty darn intense. So, here's what goes on, not completely, but I want to give you a little idea of what's going on in the story to make it all a little easier for you, okay? The story is set in Salem, Massachusetts, and the story is set in the same year as the witches' trials in Salem, Massachusetts. Okay? So, you should be able to have things pretty well capsulized already. 1692, right? Yeah, Salem, Massachusetts. Okay? Now, we have, 2 principal characters, maybe 3 principal characters. The name of the story is Young Goodman Brown, okay? And Young Goodman Brown is the character that we spend most of our time with in this story, okay? This is set in puritanical New England, okay? Puritans, when you think of the way they dressed and how the way they dressed reflected their lifestyle as pretty staunch and straightforward and such. That's the way we think of the Puritans, and that's pretty accurate when they first got here. Something you should know is this. When the Puritans landed in New England, they set up a colony there, Plymouth Colony, and they were very rigorous on who could be in Plymouth Colony. Now, life for these folks was very tough, okay? They came here with 104 people, and in the first year, half of them died. After 1 year, they were down to 52, okay? And many of those people starved to death. So life was tough, okay? Obviously, when a lot of your people starved to death, okay? So after a year, the governor decided to change this all-for-one, one-for-all kind of life they had, what we might term a communistic or communal society, to giving pieces of land to individual families, okay? And you think about this, it makes a lot of sense, okay? Now, let's say that, your community has a big project that you're working on, and everybody's supposed to work hard on this project. But there are some people that are going to work harder than other people, and so, I don't have to worry about really knocking myself out on this because it's a community project, and so it's not my project. Contrast that to this. My family has this plot of land. this is where I have to grow the food for us to live on this year. Okay? Are you going to work harder for your family or for the community at large? Naturally, you're going to work harder for your own family. And so that's what happened. Okay? The governor divided the land up into separate plots, and every family had their own plot. And so the idea got to be, work hard and you'll make it. But these people had come here for religious reasons, so they could practice their own religion. Okay? And so they tied God into it. They said, work hard, get ahead for the greater glory of God. Well, after not a terrible amount of time, these hard-working folks developed an area that was thriving. They were all working hard. They were all getting ahead. And, they were praising God, except we know how that works. We've all had the situation where we have a big test tomorrow, and we haven't done the work we should do, and so we say, please, God, please help me with this. Just this one time, please help me, and I won't screw up like this again. And then we take the test, and whether we do good or bad, we very quickly fall back into our old habits. Well, okay, that kind of relates to the way this community was going. These people were getting better and better and better as a community. They were thriving, they were doing well, and so the idea of working hard, getting ahead for the greater glory of God started to fade a little bit and got to be more like, work hard, get ahead, because I want to get ahead. Okay? So, and in fact, that kind of became the American work ethic, and it's part of the reason why America has always outshone the rest of the world when it comes to getting things done, when it comes to accomplishing, when it comes to getting ahead. That is the American work ethic. Okay, so anyway, that's these people. Well, so their religion faded, but then in the 1680s, they realized their religion had faded, and so there was a huge comeback of religion. Religion got to be super powerful again. Okay, it got to be a huge part of their lives again, and so that's when witchcraft came about. Okay, and I explain in the notes where witchcraft came from. Let me get to the story a little bit. Okay, Goodman Brown is living in this overly zealously religious community, supposedly. Except that these people really were concerned about maintaining the appearance of being religious. Only their religion had faded, as I said a couple minutes ago. Okay? Goodman Brown leaves his wife, Faith. Faith says something very important. This one night, please stay here with me. This one night above all others, please stay here with me. And Goodman Brown says, this one night above all others, I have to go. Okay? So Goodman Brown leaves his newly married wife, they're newlyweds. He leaves her to go off into the forest. Now, it's a dark forest. It's sunset. Dark forest never, shows something good. He goes into the forest. He meets his character there. And we get to see very quickly that this guy he meets in the forest is the devil. Okay? The devil makes it pretty clear to him. Okay? After you read for a while, you don't have to worry about it. Now, as you're reading the story, you'll see thee and thou. Don't let that bother you. This story is not written in Old English. It's written in current day English, modern English, except that, English continues to change. Like when I was a kid, the word text meant a book. It didn't mean something you did on your phone. Okay? So our language continues to change. Okay? And some things have changed even in your lifetime. Hashtag. That's something that's developed in the last few years, your lifetime, okay? So language continues to develop. So this is not Old English. You'll see the word prithee, which means pray with me, what do you think, what's your thought? That's what prithee means, okay? Or I pray, that's what prithee means. So I'm kind of asking this of you, okay? So don't let these words bother you. Anyway, Goodman Brown meets his character in the forest, whom we learn very quickly is the devil, and then it's like he knows he shouldn't do this. He knows he shouldn't do it, okay? And he knew he shouldn't have gone in the first place because he had told his wife, this one night I have to go, and she said, stay with me. But when she says stay with me, it's obvious that she knows something's going on too, okay? So her name is Faith. Her name is Faith, and Faith is kind of like, to some degree, the anchor of Goodman Brown's faith, okay? And yet we were already seeing right in the beginning that her faith isn't really so powerful, is it? Because she knows something's happening too. So anyway, Goodman Brown starts through the forest with this guy. He says, walk a ways with me. They walk a ways, and Goodman Brown says, nobody in my family ever went on a journey like this. And the devil laughs and says, when your father did such and such, I was with him. And when your grandfather did such and such, I was with him. Now imagine learning that your parents and grandparents consorted with the devil to do terrible things. Okay? The devil is breaking down Goodman Brown. The devil is the world's biggest liar. So did this happen? We don't know. The devil obviously tells us lies all the time to get us to do things too. Okay? Goodman Brown goes a little farther with this guy, and then he sees somebody coming, so he hides. And who is it? It's the woman who taught him his catechism. Okay? And that woman recognizes the devil. It's like, holy cow, she taught me all this good stuff. She taught me my catechism, and she's a friend of the devil? Something's wrong here. And then he goes a little further, and here's the deacon and the pastor from his church. They're riding along, and they're on their way to the same meeting, the same place, okay? So Goodman Brown, is really upset because all these people that mean so much to him are going, but he's still trying to fight, And then he's walking along, and he hears all these sounds overhead. And these pink ribbons that he had seen in his wife's hair when he first left her come floating down, okay? So that tells him that his wife is on the way to this same meeting. And so he storms through the desert going to this meeting, okay? And he is raging. So he gets to this meeting, and who does he see? But he sees his mother who's saying, stay back, and he sees everybody. He sees everybody from the town. And he was shocked that the good shrank not from the wicked, okay? Now again, the puritanical world is one built around the idea that you live really good, but they weren't all really good because they're all at this witch's Sabbath. And when the devil calls him up at the critical moment, when he says, come forth, bring forth the converts, and that's Faith and Goodman. And at the last second, Faith and Goodman are standing there next to this flaming tree, a flaming rock, and Faith and Goodman shouts to Faith, Faith, look up to heaven and resist the evil one. And all of a sudden, it's all gone. Okay, everything is gone. And then Goodman Brown seems to wake up. And here's the kicker in the deal. Okay, and this is something for you to decide. Did Goodman Brown fall asleep in the forest? Okay, did Goodman Brown fall asleep? You decide from your reading, and that's your email question for the week. Okay, so email me and let me know if you think Goodman Brown fell asleep in the forest. And you can write this in your you're going to be in your story. You can write about this if you want to in your essay for this week. When he goes back home, when he goes back to Salem, his hometown, Faith comes out to see him, and he walks right past her. Okay, you'd think he'd be overjoyed to see his bride whom he'd been away from for the night. But he walks past her. And when he went to church on Sundays, while people were singing, he would hear an anthem of sin. So all he could think of was evil. In his eyes, everybody had become evil. Was he any different? Was he any different? He was there. He went to this witch's Sabbath. Okay? So you decide if he's any different. I'm not going to tell you. Now, the thing is, see, it's all about the hypocrisy of the Puritans. And a really unusual kind of thing here is this. Goodman Brown tries to act like he's above all of this, but is he really? At the end of the story, when Goodman Brown dies, and they talk about the parade of people following his casket for him to be buried, they talk about his wife and his children and his grandchildren. Now, Hawthorne tells us, sometimes awakening during the night, he shrank from the bosom of faith. Sometimes. Obviously, not all the time, because he's got children and grandchildren, right? So, if he's really, on a different plane than the rest of these people, as he thinks he is, then would he have children and grandchildren? Would he have consorted with Faith to create? Okay? If she was so evil, and does he even know that she's evil? These are things you can write about in your essay, by the way. Okay? So, I wanted to give you a little background on this story. It's an intense, intense story. You may have to read it a couple of times, okay? Read it carefully. I gave you your email question, and I love this story. But again, you cannot breeze through it. You cannot breeze through it. Plant in your head the idea of puritanical hypocrisy, okay? But you can't breeze through this story. Read it carefully. Maybe read it twice. I love the story. It's a great story. And think of the fire behind me. Think of hell's fire. We're very close to Holy Week now, so it's a good time. This is Lent. It's a good time for you to be thinking about this kind of stuff anyway. Have a good week, okay? And you know where to get me.